Why is housing so expensive? When is the next recession going to be? I'm sure you can't help but hear talks about a potential recession coming because it is all over the media. But 90% of the time, they do ignore the three key numbers which are keeping the housing prices where they are, and it's also the reason why we are not in a recession just yet. So what are those three key numbers, and when do I think the next recession is going to be? I'm going to be sharing all of that with you in this video. And I want to start out by revealing the three key numbers first, because if you can find those actual numbers for yourself, you will always have a pretty good understanding of what the current state of the market is like. First key number is wage growth. The second key number is job growth, and the third key number is inflation. Wages have been growing at 5.4% year to year. Jobs have been growing at 3.4% year to year. And inflation is currently running at 1.5%. So are we in a good economy right now? Yes, you can see that wage growth is outpacing inflation almost 5-1, and job growth is outpacing inflation almost 3-1. What this is telling us is that people have the disposable income to spend, and anybody that wants a job can find a job. If anybody wants two jobs, most likely they can find the second job. And in a healthy economy, inflation usually runs between 1 and 2% or somewhere in the middle, which is where we are currently at. Well, when we look at the economic curve of recessions, most of the housing market in the United States, if we exclude the artificially created LA and New York market, it moves like this. This is 90% of the country. LA and New York market look more like a staircase because they are a controlled market. The average time between the top of the market and the bottom of the market is 7 years, which is kind of a problem that we had in the last downturn. If the market officially collapsed in 2008, which we know it didn't, but let's say it did, that means that we should have started to climb out of it in late 2009, early 2010, but instead we were sitting here going like dum, da-dum, 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 like a heart monitor. And the media wants us to believe that since 2012 we have been in a rising market. So where are we at now in 2019? Well, the first thing that we have to understand is that wage growth and housing growth, they mirror one another. So we know wages are growing at 5.4% year to year. And nationwide, the average housing appreciation is currently 4.7%, and the adjusted number is at 3.6%. So if wage growth stops, appreciation stops, and housing prices go down, if people have the disposable income to spend, why is housing growth going up less than wage growth? Well, when we think about it, when somebody purchases a house and their income goes up, what is usually the very next thing people buy? A car, and then maybe new furniture for the house. So the income growth is never going towards the house. It is going towards debt. This is a sure sign that we are now at the top of the market. We're right here. Why are people not buying when most renters are paying 55 to 56% of their gross income in rent? And there's a couple of issues. The first is that most people cannot save any money, so they don't even have the reserves to even get here. And the second issue has to do with lending. So recently, the CFPB decided to make lending more effective. In January of this year, they increased the debt-to-income ratio from what used to be 40 to 41% to 43%, and not too long ago to 45%. In fact, to qualify for a government-insured loan, they will go all the way down to a credit score of 520. Still, there are people that can't qualify for loans, which is kind of interesting. So what is throwing off their debt-to-income ratios? And for a lot of people, it is student loans. The reason why a lot of people are not buying homes is because the housing supply has been going down for a very long time now. Also, the reason why millennials are not so enthused about buying homes is because what they want and what they want to pay for it just don't match. So what is affecting the housing supply? There's two things. First is the number of resales, which is people that are looking to sell their home. And second is the number of builders that can build new homes. What is happening to the number of resales is that the number of people that are looking to sell their homes is actually decreasing. If we compare it 7 years ago, the average person stayed in their home for 5 years. Today, it is 11.3 years and rising. That part of the supply is a fixed number and it's shrinking. That means that new builds of homes have to make up for it. So naturally, the number of building permits have been up every quarter for the past 3 years. And last quarter, they were up 2.7%, but new home starts were down 3.1%. So if building permits are up, why are new home starts down? Because we don't have the people to build them. We have a shortage of skilled labor, and anybody that is in this real estate investing business will confess to this. But not only is skilled labor hard to find, but also the average age of the average skilled labor is in their 50s. Laborers are actually jumping jobs daily because someone else will offer to pay them more money. So they will leave one side to go work for someone else. They're jumping around. It should be taking 90 to 120 days to build a home. It is now taking 180 to 270 to build a home because we don't have the people. We need more skilled labor. It is a problem. So if people are staying in their homes longer and builders can't produce enough, that means that the housing supply is going down, but the demand is going up. That is why in old cities like Chicago, we have old manufacturing and old office buildings being converted into apartments, co-ops, and condos, because it is much easier to turn those in than it is to start building from the ground up. In a perfect world, when this is happening, it would make it the seller's market, right? But we're not living in the same world we used to 10 years ago, because the appraisers really put the reality brakes on housing prices. So that means that we are never truly in a seller's market anymore, and we are never truly in a buyer's market anymore. Instead, we are in a market where one has more leverage, but not control. And that is really a change in the real estate market from 10 years ago to today. It used to be where supply and demand dictated the real estate market, but that is not so true today anymore. Today, more than anything else, this is what dictates the real estate market. As long as wage growth is up or somewhat above level, as long as job growth is up, as long as inflation stays down, the market is going to grow. Which answers the question, why the housing prices are at where they are at today. Now we have arrived at the very last question. If we look at that 7-year trend, it means that we should have started going down somewhere already. But as we have addressed over here, the numbers are showing us that we are at the top of the market. And the reason we are at the top market is because what the 3 key numbers and where the 3 key numbers are at is what is keeping us here. So the question should be, how long can we stay here? That is why everyone is wondering when the next recession is going to be. So we are a free market economy. It's really, really simple. When people have money to spend, the economy does well. When people are scared and don't spend their money, the economy tightens up. If you want to see this economy go into recession real fast, scared people say don't spend your money, and if people stop spending their money, we will end up in a recession within 2 months. But can we go into a recession? Sure. But there is only 2 ways to get there. And we have to look at job growth versus manpower and the cost versus the living cost to you for working. Once that starts taking its toll on you, the market will come down. So the very first thing that we have to understand is that there is a scale here. There is a limit to where the wages can grow because we are at low employment. If we continue to create the jobs, where do we get the people? We need the manpower, and we don't have it no matter how much we are willing to pay because there's just not enough people doing it. So the question is, how long can we stay here? We have Jim here who is working. Jim, he needs an extra $10,000, so he has to work an additional 20 hours per week. Let's say that he is married to Jane, but Jane, she does not want to not get to see Jim 7 days out of the week. She demands that Jim stays 1 day at home with her. So Jim has to quit a part of his work to stay home with Jane, or he has to quit Jane. He can't have both. He has to make a choice. This represents the living cost. It is very real. It is happening every day, and it is happening to everybody because there is a cost to everything. So when I start looking at job growth, it is increasing, but manpower is almost flat. So what this is telling me is that the living cost, it has to rise. So that means that Jim has to be willing to work more. He has to be willing to work more of the same job or more of another job, but he has to be willing to work. Once again, there is a limit to this because how much more can Jim handle? So if I was to assume that there is a number to all of this, many economists are coming up with this number. We have 18 months to sustain our current economic growth until the economy has got to calm down. Now, does this mean that this 18 months is a forecast? No. I'm considering that this static model with these numbers, no other change affecting it, that's 18 months. How accurate is this? I don't know. I guess we'll find out. But this is what many economists are saying right now. This 18 months is just under 2 years. What would I expect to see? I would expect wage growth to flatten or to slightly go negative. That means that the prices would go down somewhere around 10%. This is considering the Harvard 90% model. So can the politics affect this number? It can make it happen faster. Can politics increase this number? Probably not, because we're pushing the top of the scale with the manpower here. Which brings me to another interesting topic, another interesting story that has been talked a lot about in the media as well, and it has to do with the Fed and interest rates. The media has been saying that the Fed was worried that the inflation was going up, so they dropped the interest rate 1/4 point to hedge inflation. Now, if you follow the story, was it a unanimous vote or was there dissension in the Fed? Out of the 9 Fed regions, 3 were against dropping the interest rate, which is kind of interesting because the market expects the Fed to drop the interest rate another quarter in this month of September or in October. But the 3 against dropping the first time thought that the market was coming along fine. So they did not want to send the wrong message. Because are we seeing inflation right now? No, but could we go into inflation? Yes, we could go into inflation very easily because Jim here, he's working all these extra hours. Jane is not cooking anymore, so they're going out to eat every night, and it's making it look like there's more money to spend than there really is, so costs go up. New York City is a model in this. And when costs go up, inflation goes up, your buying power goes down. If Jim is working all those extra hours and he still can't afford stuff, he's not working those extra hours anymore. There goes the economy. We're a free market, right? That's the point of the free market. But if we are a free market, why does the Fed lowering the interest another 1/4 point mean so much? Why does the Fed control this, and what are they really trying to do? We have these 3 people over here. They represent 3 different businesses. We want these businesses to spend money, but we can't control them because they are independent businesses, not under government control, because we are a free market economy. So if I am the government and I want to encourage these businesses to spend money, what can I do? I can give them zip for interest on money in the bank. That is what dropping this interest will do. And I mean, you see this in your own savings accounts. I mean, how much are you getting for keeping your money in a saving account? 0.02%. Then you figure out that if you got a house, you could make 5 to 6% per year, which beats the bank. So these businesses are not keeping their money in the bank. They're putting it out into the infrastructure, and we have people putting it into real estate, which then provides homes for renters. And since there's more rentals available, that should lower the price of the rents, right? So don't I make the market do what I want? And that is the purpose of the Federal Reserve. The reason they lowered the interest rate had very little to do with inflation and everything to do with getting the money back out into the infrastructure, which created the job growth. But again, how long can we stay here? We are hitting the top of the breaking point, and we have got to hit it sooner or later. If you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section right below the video. And as always, subscribe to my channel so that you can see future videos. Thank you so much for watching.